So what you been up to?
Got a lot on my plate. Got a lot of spinning plates, so to say. So, mostly right now working on comics, working on shirts, and working on a gallery show. Those are the three big ones right now.
Yeah. So I know you've been doing stuff with Jesse Norman, and you've been doing stuff with Operation Clean City, and of course the show, which is why we wanted to get an interview with you, because that's coming up on the 13th, correct?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I guess, how long have you been doing art?
I've been drawing pretty much my whole life.
Right.
I started reading like Archie comics as a kid, and moved on to like Batman and superhero stuff. Eventually got into like underground comics, and that was where I was able to be like, hey, I can do this, because like Archie and Batman have, even though they are different levels of art, they seem something that's out of like a scope for like even a little kid to do. But then growing up and like being a teenager and seeing these like underground comics from people like Robert Crumb and Dan Clowes, and being like, they're able to go at home and do this and get this printed and self-publish and everything. Right.
So would you say that like comics are your main influence? Do you have like any like other artistic influences? Like, was there an artist that you found that like really inspired?
I like the story of Matt Groening from The Simpsons, in Life in Hell. Basically, he was like working in a record store, and James L. Brooks, saw his art, and just like before that, he was just like working like at jobs like being dishwasher and like fixing houses and just all kinds of stuff, and just cranking out art, and eventually like he was able to like take that and move on to something bigger.
Yeah.
So he's definitely like a huge influence on me. I mean, like I have Jeff and Akbar tattoo.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm a big fan of Matt Groening.
That's dope.
All of his stuff.
That's dope. In my research, because trying to do my homework, I saw a couple of places describe you as a cartoonist. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite cartoon?
Like, are we talking like strips? Are we talking like animation?
Either one. I was thinking like animation, just because I absolutely love our cartoons. That kind of was definitely one of the influences in my early life for like doing art and stuff. But strips or anything.
I would say for strips, it's definitely Calvin and Hobbes.
Right.
And like Watterson's art is amazing. It's like watercolors are really good. It's kind of sad he doesn't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
But he kind of went in, did like the best comic ever, even with like panel layouts. And like he changed the entire game, and then he was just like, all right, I'm done. Yeah, it's done. In terms of animation, I grew up in the 90s, so a lot of like stuff that was on MTV, like Aeon Flux and Beavis and Butthead.
Yep.
Basically anything that Mike Judge does, so like King of the Hill.
Right, yeah.
Like I like that style. I don't draw in that style, but it's really influenced the way like my sense of humor is. And again, I think that primary influence again would be Matt Groening and The Simpsons. Like I'm always quoting The Simpsons, and like I now it's on Disney Plus. I'm able to watch it all the time. So
yeah, same. I fall asleep to The Simpsons. It's just like a great thing to have in the background.
So that was like my main influence.
So I also hear you're into movies and film.
Yes, I am a film buff. I have a gigantic shelf of movies that are in my bedroom, and I'm a big fan of the Criterion Collection. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys that do like the ones that are like jam-packed with like commentaries and all kinds of stuff. Like I love pretty much anything they put out.
Right.
So.
Do you have like a favorite genre?
I think noir.
Right.
So like 50s noir and like gangster films are always fun. I really like westerns as well.
Same.
So I like a lot of early Sam Peckinpah, and like I think one of my favorite films is like The Wild Bunch. Has this like the story of a bunch of old guys like in the West, and the West is changing. Like it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. As someone who it kind of orbits around the spheres of like comic books and movies and video games and stuff, I feel like this would be an incredibly tough question. So I'm going to ask you, favorite movie?
Okay. I have two.
Okay.
And it constantly changes, but then I usually go back to them. Like I said, the one that I can watch alone would probably be The Wild Bunch, because that's one that like I've watched since I was a kid.
Right.
One that I can watch with a lot of people would probably be Jurassic Park. I feel
Solid
like that's
choice.
one that I've watched since it came out when I was like a little kid.
Right.
And it's one that I know all the characters, I know the script, the dialogue, everything. It's just one that I've been watched over and over. I think it's a solid, like, firing on all cylinders movie. Score is great. Like, all the casting choices are good. Like, the CG dinosaurs, like, they still look good after, like...
It's so impressive to me that it still holds up after all these years.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. That's just looking at various different... Because I wouldn't call myself a film buff, but I also like movies. And I watch a couple of YouTube channels that like do like VFX and stuff and like go over things. Like, do you know Corridor Digital?
I do. I watched they're the ones where they kind of criticize, like...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, those videos are great.
And they have the stuntman ones on there now, and they have animation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So.
It's just insane seeing like other movies from the same time period as Jurassic Park, and it's just like, wow. Those people were playing two different games. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy, because I think that came out in 93, and like Terminator 2 had just come out like a year before, and it looks night and day compared to that, like in terms of just CG.
Yeah.
And like, then you look at like films that came out like 2 years later, like Spawn, it looks like garbage. And it's like, this is 2 years later. You think so that bad. it would improve dramatically, because the improvement from Terminator 2 to Jurassic Park, even though it's still ILM.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know what happened. There was like a whole part in the 90s where it was just really bad. Like,
yeah.
It was really good animation, and then it's just kind of dropped off for a while and then came back. And now it's pretty much seamless. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I was seeing a lot more. Like I recently finished The Mandalorian, and I'm seeing a lot more like invisible visual effects and CGI and stuff, and that makes me excited, because CGI is great, but I always love the weight of like practical effects. Jesus. So seeing them, like especially with like Baby Yoda, how like they made the animation look like a puppet.
Yeah.
So that it fit more. That stuff is cool.
That's why I like Jurassic Park, because I mean, like it's a mix of this early CG, and then they're using puppets for close-ups and stuff like that. Like pretty much any of the scenes with the Velociraptors, they just film it from like here and up.
Yeah.
Like from the waist and up. It's just because like it's either a guy like controlling something, or like I don't know.
I think that's why it holds up, just because in like Jurassic Park it's additive, whereas like Spawn it's just like CGI button. So
yeah.
So like I said earlier, I've been all over your Facebook and Instagram and enjoying every minute of it, especially on Instagram. Your like your t-shirts and characters, and seeing all the cutouts around town. What got you started with doing the cutouts, just kind of like in Augusta?
So for a while I was doing where I would take pictures, or people would send me pictures, and I would like go in and digitally add them in there to like a real environment. Yeah. And it reminded me a lot of like Ralph Bakshi stuff from like the 70s, where he would have like live action backgrounds and little cartoon guys. Yeah. And at Jesse Norman, where I work, we had a ton of old wood. It was just sitting around.
Right.
And we've been clearing it out, because we're trying to like get the school revamped and all that. And my coworker Carmen was like, "What do you want to do with all this? What can we do?"
Right.
And she was like, "I'm just gonna throw it away." And I was like, "All right, I have a jigsaw. Now it's time for me to like experiment."
The time is
yeah,
nigh.
yeah. So like before that, like I like getting stuff either donated or finding stuff around. That's kind of how like I got started doing art in Augusta, where I would just like found stuff and draw on it or paint on it or whatever.
Right.
And so like the idea of me having to buy a bunch of wood like was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Right.
It's gonna be expensive.
Right. Yeah,
it's gonna put pressure on it. But this is all a bunch of like plywood
Yeah.
that we weren't doing anything with and was gonna get thrown away. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, and the gigantic pieces are like the size of like half of a wall.
Oh, right.
So I'm able to make about 10 or 12 little characters from each piece of plywood.
Yeah, it's so dope, and I have to say, by far, my favorite character that I've seen you do is Slathers, the little green guy with the big cowboy hat.
Yeah,
I love that dude so much.
For the show that's going to be at 4P Studios, I had my friend Martin. She went and followed me around, and we took pictures like with her professional camera. And we took him with the big cowboy hat in front of Nachos. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking after the show, I'm just going to donate it to Nachos, and then
That'll be so
they can
cool.
hang it up somewhere. Because
Yeah.
I know when it was in front of the building, a lot of people came out and got a kick out of it. So I was like, that'd be cool. I'll just donate it to them.
Yeah.
Since I'm already there like 3-4 times a week anyways. 'Cause
Right,
my
right.
work's right down the street.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk more about that. How long have you been at Jesse Norman?
I've been there now. It's going to be 2.5 years right now.
Nice.
I think, yeah, since we're in June, it's about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I
What do you
started
think
as
about
an intern because I graduated from AU,
Right.
and they needed an intern for the art class, and I was like, sign me up, because the other internships at AU was like pencil pusher stuff. It was like ADP. I don't have a problem with ADP, but I was like, I've done like
Not your
data
bag.
collectors
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like it's
Yeah.
not very fun.
Right.
And my the dean at AU was like, hey, we have this. No one really applied to it. They didn't really promote it. And I was like, I don't know anything about this school, but I'll give it a shot.
Right.
And yeah, it's everyone that I work with, like I have a good relationship with. Like I have a good relationship with my boss. Like I never really do.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah, and so he supported me in terms of art, and then even through like COVID, where a lot of us like the hours were cut and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so everyone there is great. But yeah, I've been working about 2 years, and now I'm doing the film and photo class. So
Yeah. How you like teaching?
it's fun. It's rewarding.
Yeah.
A lot of the students that are there are like super smart.
Right.
And like it makes me like question, like I'm very positive for the next generation of kids coming in, because I feel like
definitely.
I was really dumb. Like these kids are like
Same.
10, 11, 12 years old, and like now that they have full access to like high speed internet, they're able to like grab anything off of the internet and like catch up to my level at like 31 years old.
Yep.
And it's like that's nuts, because like when I was growing up, we just had a library.
Oh, right.
And it
Yeah.
was like if I didn't go to the library, that was it. Or I would just have stuff like by hearsay.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah,
now
yeah.
it's like they can immediately like call me out on anything, because I'll be like, "Did you know that this?" And they're like, "You're wrong," and they'll just pull it up on their smartphone. I'll be like, "Oh
Yeah,
well,
I have a 13-year-old brother that does that to me all the time.
yeah."
Like, just I share a fun fact, and he's like, "That was actually proven wrong in 2008." Thanks. Wonderful.
Yeah, they're
This is the
constantly
best.
doing that. But I love working there, and it's definitely rewarding. I don't know where it's gonna go. Hopefully, I can stay there for a while and just keep making a difference for people.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's super awesome. Speaking of kids, I hear you have a children's book you're working on.
I do. I don't have a title for it yet.
Right.
It's technically done. I just got done putting watercolors to the paper, and I have to like iron it all out because they're all warped.
Yeah.
And then I brought the size that I wanted, which is going to be like the size of a golden book. So
that would be awesome.
it's like 8 inches by 6 or 7 inches, and like it's about the same amount of pages. It's going to have that cardboard hard back, and on the back there's going to be a little library card section, like little I don't know, I guess like a little pouch.
Yeah.
And inside is going to be like stickers of the characters from the book, so
That's
kids
super
can
cool.
take them out and put them everywhere.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
And now this isn't your first book. How many books do you have? Like art books and
So
stuff?
I have 2 out right now. I have Heavy Ink, which was the first one. I have Cast of Characters, and that was the second one. The third will be the children's book, and then I already have like a bunch lined up.
Right.
But I have to like space them out because like I work so fast. I don't want to immediately like every month have a different book.
Vomit books.
Yeah. And then I'm going to return to the style of my first book. So I really like doing stuff in black and white with like a lot of ink, and that was why the first book's Heavy Ink. It's just I think I use about half of a 2-liter of ink a month, just in general.
What do you use? Because I started in pencil and then switched to ballpoint pen, and I've been trying to find a good like art pen. So what exactly is it that you're using for like your line work and stuff?
I use mostly for the sketchbook I use Microns,
right? Yeah.
or the Master's Touch, which is like the Hobby Lobby brand.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing like the actual artwork on like mixed media paper, I'm using a Pentel brush pen.
Oh, okay.
And those are refillable. But I just go through each cartridge. This is easier for me. I used to refill them, and I had like a do-it-yourself thing, but I would just get covered in ink every time.
Right. Yeah.
All my shoes, all my pants, everything gets covered in ink. I'm trying to like have some clean clothes when I go out now.
Yeah.
So like now I just go out and buy a new cartridge. It's
Right.
easier for
Yeah,
me
yeah.
to do that.
Simpler.
Yeah. But that's what I use for almost everything. Like if they went out of business and I would have to construct my own, because
Right.
those are what I'm comfortable with using.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's super awesome. I've always enjoyed artists and illustrators that have like really, really bold line work and a lot of like differing line weight and stuff. Yeah, that's super cool. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been in the area since like 2003?
yeah, right around there. My dad was in the Army, and we had been all over before that, and then he settled down here in Augusta.
Right.
And then after high school, I flipped around to a lot of places. I lived in New York for a while, lived in California, just all over the place. And I was in the Army for a couple years, and I got out of the Army, and I was like, I am tired of moving around. I'm just gonna do what my dad did and just stay in one place, and like Augusta is my home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Were you actively doing art while you were in the Army?
That was a portion of my life where I was not. I was a medic, and I worked in.
Oh, that's awesome.
I worked in like the ER, and I worked long hours. So I did maybe stuff in sketchbooks, but beyond that, I wasn't really applying myself as hard.
Right.
So
Yeah, I heard that you had like moved around a lot as a kid. Where is your favorite place that you've ever been?
When we were kids, my dad was stationed in Grafenwehr, Germany, and that was where I really got into art and comics and stuff like that. We lived right down the street from the library, so I picked up a lot of like Charles Addams, like Addams Family books. I picked up a lot of like Charles Schultz, like Peanut stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And those are two big influences in like the way that I draw and the way that I have my sense of humor. I really like the gallows humor of Charles Addams. He has a lot of stuff that's really dark. And these came out in like the 50s and 60s, and even now like they're shocking.
Right.
Like and I started reading stuff from like Edward Gorey as well. I like his line work.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of European influence as well. Was I finally able to pick up like Asterix and I think it's Peyo, who does the Smurfs. I was able to pick up all these like Smurf books. They were all in German,
Right.
so I was not able to read them, but I'm able to just look through and be like, this is amazing art. And then Carl Barks, the guy that does all the Donald Duck cartoons.
Oh, cool.
Like all his stuff was all in German, and like it's still really big in Germany and in Europe.
Yeah.
And so you would go into like any shop and they would have like 4 or 5 different Carl Barks based like Disney comics.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's super cool. So, being in this area for as long as you have been, do you have like any favorite haunts? Like, what's your favorite place in Augusta?
In terms of Augusta, I definitely like going to Soul Bar and Nacho Mama's. They're like right next door. So like I'm able to get my food.
Yeah.
Able to go to Soul Bar and like no one bothers me. I know everyone there, like bartender wise, so they know like if I need to leave something, it's not going to get taken or it's not going to get lost. And I run into a lot of people because a lot of people use the building to go out the back. So I'm constantly running into people, and that's a lot of my commissions come that way.
Really?
Where people come in and they're like, oh, hey, I meant to talk to you about this. I want to have you do this. And I'm like, okay.
That's super awesome.
So it's a good like hub for a lot of downtown because it's close to a lot of places. So people are always coming and going in there.
Right. I'm 100% sure that the Augusta area has changed so much since you've been here.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say, in your opinion, is like the thing that has changed the most about the area since you've been here?
The local art scene, for sure. I know when I came back from in 2016, there were barely any murals. There were barely any like local artist things going on. There were a couple of people that were putting out art.
Right.
But I think it's picked up dramatically since 2016.
Right.
And now like it's a mad dash to get murals downtown.
Right. Yeah.
So everyone is racing against another artist to get their stuff up.
Right.
Which is insane. But it's slowly becoming like Savannah and Athens in terms of like a comfortable place for artists to be. And I really like that. So it's definitely, that's the biggest thing I'm seeing downtown, is that like a more of an art influence and buildings and just in general.
Yeah, I've definitely been the past couple of years like doing a lot more stuff in Augusta, like free time and stuff, and also working with Sample Augusta, I get to see all these different artists' catalogs. It's so awesome. It still is mind-boggling to me how anyone can do commission work, because I tried to do commission work for a little bit and just I couldn't. So like hearing about someone like you who's just like so busy, what is the craziest thing that has happened to you like in your work, like doing like art and stuff? Like what's the craziest experience that you've had?
I don't know. I try to move out of my comfort zone a lot. That's like doing the woodcuts is something I've never done before. And doing the shirts was something I've never done. But the craziest thing I would say is getting a commission for New Moon out in Aiken.
That's awesome.
To paint that fence out there. That was something that I had nothing lined up. I had no idea how I was going to mentally like put these characters on there.
That's
like
so
originally
cool.
I was going to do like this big moving like zoetrope thing.
Right.
So when you're walking by, it makes like an animation.
Yeah.
And I really wish I would have done that. I want to do that again.
Right.
Like something like that where all these things are spaced enough that if you're walking by, it looks like animation.
Yeah.
But that was something that out of the blue, they just like called me up and said if I wanted to do that. And I had pretty much a blank check to do whatever I wanted, which is good. Because most of the time with even commissions, I don't get that.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of it is a lot of back and forth. And this was where like they just let me go and do whatever. And so I was just able to pull anything I wanted from my sketchbooks and put it up there.
That's super cool.
And
that's
like,
super cool.
I do a lot of the stuff on like cardboard pieces and I put those around. Yeah.
That was awesome.
And that's so with the cardboard pieces too, that was something where I was getting like frustrated with like only having my art in a sketchbook. And so I would go to these bars or hang out with people, and they would be like, oh, let me see your sketchbook. They look through it, they'd laugh, and they'd be like, man, this is really good. Like, what are you doing with it? And I'm like, just hanging out here in the sketchbook. And I started hanging out with my friend Jackie Mayo. And that's where she gave me that brush pen that I use for everything now.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
And it was soaking into all my paper. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use this for. And I was getting frustrated. And the job I had at the time, before I was working at Jesse Norman, was at like a grocery store. Just like putting cans on shelves all day.
Right.
And I would have an accumulation of cardboard. And I would take a lot of it. And I don't know. I just had it in my trunk. And I'm like, I'll figure out something. And then I just took it and started drawing on it. And then I noticed if you put paint on it, it stays on there more. And then now I've just gotten more and more creative with that.
Right.
And that's kind of where the wood cuts is kind of an extension of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm using the same paints, I'm using the same paintbrush.
Right.
And they're more permanent. The cardboard's pretty permanent if they're inside. But I do like the idea that like if I put them somewhere outside and it rains and they wash away and that's it and it's gone forever.
Right.
And so with the woodcuts now, it's more of a permanent display.
Right. Yeah. That's super awesome. All right. I have an oddball question for you. If you were stuck on a desert island, what cartoon / comic book character would you want to be stuck with? Like rest of your life. There's no hope.
So we're talking like Roger Rabbit, where like they are with me. I really like Simon Henselman. Like he does like Meg and Mog.
Yeah.
I think someone like Werewolf Jones would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I'm not that person, and I feel like it would be a good clash.
Right.
I wouldn't want to have someone like, like Charlie Brown, who's just like down in the dumps a lot. You want to have someone that is like wild and crazy.
Yeah.
To just keep me sane.
Yeah.
So.
That's super cool.
I think it would probably be like, if you read any of the Meg and Mog, there's like Owl is one of the characters. I'd probably end up being more of an owl.
Right.
And then there would be Werewolf Jones, like constantly like conflicting with everything I do.
Right.
And I think that would just keep me like sane.
Right. Yeah.
To have that enemy and also like a friend. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we have a gift for you.
Oh man. We need to talk about Robert Crumb.
Okay. All right. Yes, definitely. Let's do it.
Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I just need to take a look at this real quick. Yeah. So Robert Crumb is one of my like main influences. I'm gonna put this away for a second so I'm not flipping through it. Robert Crumb was one of those people that like really got me into comics completely.
Right. Yeah.
I picked up there's like a little tiny book. It's like the Robert Crumb handbook. That was like my first like experience with Robert Crumb, reading the story and basically reading about like with Zap Comics he did in like the late 60s. He was selling them on the streets of San Francisco out of a baby carriage.
Right.
And just like selling them that way. And it's like, I really like that do-it-yourself attitude that he had. And then obviously the documentary Crumb, like is kind of like a don't meet your idols kind of thing. Because turns out he's kind of, not a good person.
Right.
But in terms of his art, like even now, like all of my art has like a little bit of like, not a crosshatch, but I don't even know what I would call it. But it's a callback from years and years and years of trying to draw like Robert Crumb. And then being like, this is a lot of effort. This is a lot of work. I'm never going to be that way. And I want to at least put a little bit of his influence in my art.
Yeah,
so I still do that to this day.
Yeah.
And then if I go to Athens or Savannah or anywhere and I see a Robert Crumb comic, I will usually try to pick it up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So like I have a gigantic stack of Robert Crumb comics like in my house.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I have a couple shirts from him. I'm a huge fan. But then like I said, like in terms of who he is, I don't he would not. I would not want to be on a desert island with him. I feel like it would be a complete mess. Or any of his characters, like Fritz the Cat or anything.
Oh, right, yeah.
But in terms of his art, like he's up there in terms of like top 3 favorite artists.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you.
Yeah. Who do you think we should interview next? Like, who do you think in Augusta needs like some exposure, or do you think would be like a good fit for getting an interview?
So, this is like a side track real quick, but at my work, we're doing like an artist like display. Mm-hmm. It's like a window display project, and I'm getting local artists to put their art up.
Right.
But it has to be people that are like consistent. Mm-hmm. And there's like a lot of people that are really good artists, but like they'll have periods of time where like there's a lull.
Yeah.
And it could be personal issues. This could be like a creative like wall. But in terms of somebody that is constantly putting out stuff, there is an artist named Ashton Maya. Mm-hmm. She does line work that like blows my mind.
Right.
And she uses the microns that I use, but she uses the full gamut. I only really use the 5.
Right, yeah.
Because that works for what I need to do.
Yeah.
But she's using pretty much little tiny pinpricks all the way up to like giant size like pens.
Yeah.
And her pieces are huge.
God.
And she works her way all the way from one side to the other. And she's consistently putting out art. I think she's still at AU. Mm-hmm. But her art is going to be on the window display at Jesse Norman. We're currently renovating the podcasting room. Mm-hmm. But as soon as that's done, like her art's going to be up. And the original piece that she has, I'm going to see about trying to buy from her.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I have a lot of her art that we did. We have like a art meet every Tuesday at Metro. Mm-hmm. And it's me and Jackie Mayo and a bunch of other artists. Mm-hmm. And I would get art from her, and just watching her in terms of like concentrating and getting everything done, like it blows my mind because I draw really fast. And so it's a complete opposite direction where it's like really slow and calculated. Yeah. And like I always want to be like, just stop what I'm doing and look at it, because I'm like, this is like another realm that I'll never be like a part of, because like I like drawing faster. Like my goal is to eventually just get to where I can draw really, really fast. Right. But consistent. Yeah, yeah. And so seeing her go in the opposite direction is really neat.
I've done exactly one pointillism portrait, and anytime I see anyone with like a lot of cross hatching or like a lot of really tiny line work, I'm just like, hats off to you. Mm-hmm. I understand the man hours that got put into that. Dope. We will definitely look into seeing if we can get her on the podcast. Where can people find you? Plug yourself. I know there's a show coming up, so
yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Whole Bowl of Fun. Mm-hmm.
Follow him. It's great.
I'm on Facebook as well. Just type in my name as Jacob Boland. You'll see me. I also have a Patreon, and I started that in September. Mm-hmm. Because I had a huge amount of art that I was either just thrown away, mm-hmm. or just like hitting people up on Facebook and be like, hey, I have a whole bunch of art, come and get it. This needs to leave my house.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And with Patreon now, I'm able to fund the printing of my books. Like if Patreon didn't exist, I would not be able to print any of my books. Yeah. Like hardline stop. That would not happen. Mm-hmm. They also help me afford copious amounts of ink, right, and pens and pencils and everything. I go through a lot of pens and paper, and they provide all that. And then they get something in return. Like they allow me to continue what I'm doing, and to experiment in new mediums. Also, like once a month, they get something in the mail. So for June, it's going to be an original magnet. Everyone gets an original with me. Like I don't like to do any kind of prints or copies. So everything's going to be original. And then it's a line art. So it'll be a line art on like cardstock and a magnet. And then like last month for May, I did original postcards, and I used basically all my supplies to get those done. So I used ink, I used charcoal, I used colored pencils, I used like pastels, I used everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So those are really neat because I just got to do whatever I wanted to do on those. And like it's very flexible in terms of like content for Patreon. So I try to do comics on there. I try to do sketchbook designs. And now that I have the children's books coming out, I'm going to focus on like behind the scenes of like the entire process of getting that done, because this is going to be my hardest thing to do.
Right.
Because all my other books, they're printed at Struthers around the corner from my work. And it's a pretty cut and dry process. But with this book, I wanted to be hardback. I wanted to have like inserts and other stuff in it, and like even like fold out pages and like that's they like I told them about it, and it kind of like blew their mind. They're like, we're not going to be able to do that, so now I have to go and figure out how I'm going to do this and to get the stickers made and everything. So but again, like Patreon allows me to do that, so I'm very like grateful to everyone that subscribes on there.
Yeah, that's great. Well, if you want to see more of Jacob, go to all the social medias that he just mentioned, and you're going to have a show on June 13th at 4P Studios, right?
June 13th at 4P at 4 p.m. So, yeah.
Perfect. That's easy to remember.
And it's going to be a combination of my art, Jennifer Sparling, who works at New Moon. Pretty much throughout all of COVID, we met up and traded art.
Right, yeah.
And so I got a lot of like backgrounds from her, and I would ink over them and draw over them.
Yeah.
And so most of the show is going to be me and her, but I also have stuff from Von Holmes. I have stuff from Jackie Mayo, my friend Alex Seegers.
I'm sorry, that's a Von Holmes right there in front of you down there, the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I just had to point that out.
I didn't really know him until like 2 months ago.
Right.
And then like I was like, this guy's really cool. Like I really like his art.
Yeah.
But for the show, it's going to be a combination of my art and then multiple people's. And then there's also going to be woodcuts there. It's also going to be, I want to plug, there's an Instagram called Augusta Buildings. And they've been sending me a lot of like photography, and I've been like drawing over them digitally.
Right. Yeah,
or
awesome.
like I go the old-fashioned way of drawing on a line paper, scanning it, formatting it, and then putting it up.
Right.
So I like the whole process of that compared to just digitally popping it in there.
Yeah, that's dope.
So those are going to be blown up and put up in the show as well. So it's going to be a lot of local artists, not just me.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that would be neat to have a solo show, but in extension, it's a solo show, but there's so many other local artists that, again, aren't being seen very often. So this is a good chance for them that pretty much they have a show as well.
Yeah, that's super. I'm definitely going to be there. I'm excited about it, and you guys should definitely show up too. Well, thank you for being here. This was a great interview. I love picking your brain.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more about any artists, really, we're trying to compile all of them. Or if you want to watch another interview, we have stuff on our YouTube, and go to sampleaugusta.com to check out more. And stay tuned. There will be more of these.